table, and teams function more effectively as far as more thoroughly, maybe not as quickly, but there's a value in all of those people with all of those talents bringing all that information. And studies have shown that we work better when we have that team mentality, when it's not just my way, the highway. Now that's kind of still my go-to if I get stressed. Do it my way and do it now. So it's a great challenge, and I've really been blessed with you and all of the various medical directors I've met. There's so much richness of veterinary history out there, and then the operation managers with all their experiences. I feel really, really lucky to have found Petwell, because everybody brings something to the table. And again, another core value, every job is important. I really feel that with our organization, with our family.
Well, I'm glad we haven't scared you off yet.
I'm enjoying it. I mean, I really, and I won't say I was burnt out on clinical practice, because I could still do it. I'm really enjoying every morning I get up. It's like, hey, what am I getting to do today? Every day is so different. And even meetings and hearing what people are just even sitting on a practice manager meetings. I try to hit all 3 of those on Mondays, and just hearing what they're doing. And when I hear a little win, it could be almost anything, a culture activity that went well, or a conversation with a staff member. That's just wonderful. It just gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Well, good. Well, I like to hear that you're figuring it out, but it doesn't stress you out, at least too much, as you figure it out.
Again, let it go.
Right.
Let it go.
Well, and it's funny because talking to Dr. Paddock, the other clinical director, she's very much like the idea, like she has all these ideas, and she is really good at networking and really good at like appeasing is not the word I want, but you know what I mean? Like, those people where like,
yes,
you can, even if they don't agree with what you're saying, you still feel like they do. You know what I mean? Like, Whitney's really good at that, our HR person, which I feel like for HR, that's a really good tactic.
That's a really good personality. Yeah, and that's, and I love my little quizzes. Every 2 weeks I do my little Hopper report, and I'm trying to vary them. That's one reason I sent out that personality quiz, because it's so interesting to learn a little bit more about other people and how we need to relate to those folks. And I need to ask Whitney to take that quiz. Robin is a relator, and so big picture people. Big picture people, it's all about the relationship. So when you and I come in, with our details, and we kind of turn them off, we need to step back and work on developing that trust and that rapport with that person, and then not overwhelm them with too many details. Though I always think we can all benefit from working on the things that we're not as good at, or that don't come as naturally. So yeah, Robin always teases me about, hey, Susan, you're the detail person. Can you do such and such? And, or she'll say, hey, I really need to practice. And it really creates a great conversation that we all realize we're people, we have skills, we have strengths. Doesn't mean we should, use those as a crutch and, not work on the things we don't do as well. It's kind of fun, and it really helps, I think, to, look at ourselves a little bit more closely and see how we can best, interact with our teams. And she's one of my team members too. So she's a great, we're a good yin and yang. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yay.
I mean, I don't know if Dr. Chang would think you're saying it right. Okay. But that's how I learned it.
Well, maybe don't tell Dr. Chang.
Right, exactly. Well, it was funny because talking to Dr. Paddock about, her idea of the role, and I think having the two of you together is awesome, because she just kept talking about how, like, she has all these ideas, but she can't organize them. And then you're like, look what I organized.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So it's nice because it balances it balances it out. And I mean, I think it's interesting always having to. So here's my question for you. So you come in, right, and you start as clinical director. What's your like initial goal when you come in? Because you did tours of all the hospitals.
Yep.
So what were your goals when you were touring the hospitals?
My first goal is to create relationships with everyone, because without that, we can't get anything else done. And Phil, your operation manager, has this cool saying, we have to make those relationship deposits before we can make withdrawals. And I thought that was such a great saying, that everything that we do is based on our relationships with each other's. And how can we ask someone to trust a business decision or a medical suggestion or pretty much anything, and it works, with your staff? How do you trust that person to restrain and help a client without having a basis of a relationship with them? And especially more difficult for me when I may only see you every 5 or 6 weeks. I really need to get that relationship foundation established. So that's my primary goal when I come in.
And then did you have other goals as far as like when you toured the hospital? Like, were you making sure every clinic had X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I was also trying to learn and kind of take notes on what equipment do you have, what's your computer program, so that I could, if you're calling me about, like, you had a thing about estimates, are they disappearing? If I don't know what your program management system is, or PMS, kind of an awful abbreviation.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Do you call it the curse? Like when you talk about it?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another topic. Yeah, boy, we could certainly go there. If I don't have some of those basic knowledge of do you have a digital x-ray? Do you have, what's your dental high-speed drill, things like that. I need to have some basic knowledge of what your day looks like, and your staff members. And I was writing down names of people, so it would help me, because again, I've got 14 clinics and it's hard to remember everybody's name. So that was the kind of information I was trying to get, so that not knowing maybe what I would need to know in the future, having as much information as possible. Again, going back to that detailed person,
yeah,
that you and I are.
So
data.
You go through, you meet everybody, you kind of come up with an idea of like what practices need really to the next steps, like digital dental or a new dental machine or a new piece of equipment. And then you're meeting with the medical directors, and then you do phone calls with everybody every week, right?
I try to get at least every other week or so.
Okay.
You and I talk a bit more than some others. You
requested
that? Well, no, you requested that, and I'm like, cool, that's awesome. That really is in my wheelhouse, about a regular day and time. You and I love that. But not everybody wants me that much in their lives, and I get it. We have other people who are perhaps maybe they're selling veterinarians and they don't feel like they need to talk to me as much. I'm going to try to meet them on what their need level is, and then try to match that. So I have some people like you that I meet with every week. I have others that I touch base with by email, and others just pick up the phone whenever they want. It all just varies, and I'm trying to just go with that and meet them again where their needs are or where their wants are.
Yeah, I didn't know we didn't have to talk every week. I mean, I like it, but I thought that was like what we were supposed to do.
The thing is, yeah, there's no supposed to. It's whatever works. Yeah. And, so if we have to skip a week, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm trying not to come in with too much of my agenda, because then something may happen and I need to go visit a clinic for another reason. And I'm trying to not get too mired down into a hard and fast schedule, because again, I do have teams and other people have things that will come up and meetings get canceled and things change. Clinics change. You've seen it. Technicians quit or people have personal issues. There's always changes in the hospitals, and even though I came in with that sort of agenda, now I'm really just trying to work with my operations teams and what are they needing? How can I help them? And using that team dynamic to create the plan.
Well, and I think, at least from my perspective, my practice manager meets with Phil, our operations manager, every week. It's sometimes multiple times. And I think being a medical director is weird, because it's like you need to do all this leadership stuff. That's not a great term, but leadership obligations. But then you also are seeing appointments full time.
Yeah, you're multiple hats.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you never get like a stretch of period where, okay, for 4 hours I'm going to work on this one thing at the clinic. It's more like in between appointments or if you have a little break. But I think having that regular meeting, even though hers is in person and ours is usually on the phone, I think it helps, because it's almost like, whether you want it to or not, that your practice manager has somebody that they rely on readily. And that's like, whenever you talk to the office manager, they're not a veterinarian, so they usually come at it from like a monetary standpoint, which isn't wrong. I mean, that's partly why they're there. Right. But it's nice to have that relationship with your clinical director, so that they get what I'm going through, but they also understand the medical side. It's just nice to feel like somebody's in your corner, I guess. That's the shorter way of saying it.
Right. And that's the whole, I believe the whole reason to create those positions, so that, yes, you would have someone to support you and someone to be that liaison and someone to mention that yes, the operation managers are very focused with, the profitability of the clinics and making sure we can pay our staffs well and, have the great equipment. And that all comes down to money. It's hard for it not to. It'd be great to not have to have a monetary basis to be able to get those things. So I'm really happy to be able to be that liaison, be that voice of hey, I've been there and I want to support the medical director, and how can we all work together and put our 2 cents in. Yeah, I like what you're saying. Yep.
I think that's a great place to pause for part 1 of my interview with Dr. Hopper. Now we're going to hear our final pet tales of the year. And thank you, everyone, all of my clients and my parents and my team members who contributed their pet tales. It was a lot of fun hearing everybody's stories. And we're going to end the pet tales reign with a story about the squirrel and my parents.
Grandpa Dickie and Jackie had moved into a new house. And they hadn't moved in yet. They were getting ready to move in. And Grandpa Dickie was painting. And I was working on Saturdays then. And so he called and asked me if I would please come over and help him because he had this injured animal. So I get there, and he has in a shoebox a baby squirrel that has fallen out of a tree, or the neighbor's cat got it, or something horrible happened, and its back was broken. We get it home, and I get it home, and we put it in a box or an aquarium or something, and we decide that we needed to go get a water bottle, and we needed to figure out what, the store sold squirrel food. We didn't know what. So we went to the store and we get it. No, before we do that, before we go to the store to buy all this food and paraphernalia, Dad has one work glove, and he puts that one work glove on his right hand. His left hand has nothing on it. And he goes to pick up the squirrel. Well, the squirrel suddenly found its strength, crawled up his arm, and bit him. And so he takes his left hand and pushes the thing into the aquarium, and off we go to the store. And we come back, and the squirrel's